Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I'm going to be talking about my June TBR. Now, just a kind of premise before I get started, I'm going to blab a little bit for a minute. I am taking part in Whateverthon 2 this month in June, which is a readathon that is created by Maddie from Book Browsing blog. The readathon is structured around 4 different teams that you could join. I've joined the Shelf Slayers. Each team has their own bingo board with some prompts that are joint between all the teams, but then I think it's 5 prompts that are individual to each team. The idea being that you're kind of trying to cross off as many bingo tiles as possible. You can cross off 3 with each book, and trying to get as many bingos and trying to clear the board and fulfill the prompts. So what I'm going to talk about first is basically the way I'm going into Whateverthon is that I'm not setting myself a set TBR. I'm going to try and see how well I can fulfill all the prompts and how easy I can fulfill all the prompts with other books that I have to read as well. So the first stack I'm going to talk about is basically my kind of must-have reads. These are my readathon, read-along and book club books that I'm reading that I've got to get to, my kind of reading obligations as such. One of them is on Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy to show you, but for one of my book clubs that I go to in real life and see real people, I am reading Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I'm not quite sure how I'm fitting that into the whole readathon yet. But that is one that I do have to get to. And then another one, which has been on about 5 TBRs probably, is A Man Called Ove. I think it's Ove by Frederick Brackman. Basically, my date with this book club for us to get together got pushed forward. And I just decided that it wasn't imperative for me to read it at the tail end of May. But I think it was on my May TBR as well, if memory serves me right. So I am actually currently reading this, and I am 103 pages through, but this has gone back on because this is another book, like I said, from a real in-life book club that I go to. It was actually my pick as well, and this hopefully will fulfill some prompts as well. It's under 300 pages. It's been on a previous TBR, and I don't know if there's any others that it fits into. Man Called Ove. There's one of the prompts that's the an, of, a, or and. I have that in the title somewhere, but I think I have already covered that with another book. So that's that. That's the plan with that. And then, so I've got those 2, like I said, Little Fires Everywhere and A Man Called Ove. I then have The Assassin's Blade, which is novellas from the Throne of Glass world by Sarah J Maas. I think there's 5 in here. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is our next instalment in the Throne of Glass series read-along that I'm hosting on the Daisy and Bee Book Club. I was advised to read this, this sort of suggested reading order is to read this after the first 3 books, because some of the stories mean more to you having read the first 3 books. So this is the next instalment, but this has weapons on the cover, which is one of my prompts, and I'm also kind of taking this as purple cover because Selena is wearing a purple cloak and the person on the back is also wearing a purple dress, and I feel like that makes up the majority of the colour on the cover, so I'm kind of going with that for my Whateverthon prompts. And then I also have, for my kind of like reading obligations, King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard, which is the 3rd book in the Red Queen series, which Daisy is hosting the series read-along for. I'm intrigued to see where this goes, because I wasn't completely sold on the last book, and I kind of felt, like I mentioned in my wrap-up, which I've just filmed, kind of felt like some bits were rushed that I felt should have been more fleshed out, and some bits were more fleshed out that I felt didn't need to be and could have been a little bit more, could could have been shorter and a little bit more brevity used. So I'm intrigued to see where this is going to go. We ended the book on a bit of a cliffhanger with characters kind of like not where we necessarily expect them to be. So I am intrigued to continue. And I feel like I've got far enough now that this is the third book. I believe there's one further book and then a book of novellas. So I'm too invested now. I kind of need to know how it's going to end. So looking forward to reading this soon. This I probably will read before Assassin's Blade, because we've got the 15th of June for the get together and the discussion on this one. Now, the rest of the books are all kind of hopefuls. They're possibilities. They're help me to fulfill prompts, or are just books that I'm currently through or kind of have my eye on. The first one, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. I actually started this last month in May, and I got about 150 pages through. I might not get to this because I don't think it actually explicitly really fulfills many prompts that I've kind of got left, not earmarked, and everything else just fits nicely with other prompts. It would be nice to get to it and get it finished. I feel a little bit bad because I have already read it and feel bad for collecting points when I've already started it and read a chunk of it, but I'm not sure if in reality I'm actually going to get much of this read. But if I do, it might be maybe towards the tail end of the month when I've already kind of ticked everything else off and I kind of feel like, okay, I've got time to read this now, if you know what I mean. Now, this one is again a tentative kind of hopeful. This starts another series, which I don't know how I feel. And this is a standalone. It's Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I don't know an awful lot about any of these books, by the way, that I'm talking about, hence why I haven't given you any synopsis on them. But Elantris is a book with a one-word title, but it is also on the host faves. So all of the 4 groups have 3 hosts, is it? And they've all selected 3 books as their faves. And this fits that prompt as well. So it's nice. I kind of want to read books that kind of double up on at least do it more than one prompt. So obviously being a host fave and being a one-word title means that it ticks off more than one thing. Elantris itself isn't part of a series, but in my head, this sets off my broach into Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere. I've been informed this is the best place to start. Please let me know if I am wrong. But I've been told that this is a good place to start and then head on to the first era Mistborn series. So even though this is on its own isn't a series, I'm attaching sort of a series nature to it. And from what it looks like on the back, I think this may have also been his debut novel, which is interesting. I don't know a lot about the Cosmere and I don't know a lot about Elantris, but what I do know is I'm super hyped to read it. So again, a hopeful. These are all hopefuls. The next book is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This fulfills again a couple of prompts. This fulfills a host fave prompt if for whatever reason I don't get to this or I choose something else with the one-word title. This could also double up as the host fave prompt, but this could also double up as having majority of one colour on the cover. So this kind of like greeny bluey colour, would you call it? Maybe more teal. It's very, very greeny tealy. This is about, I've watched the movies, I kind of know what it's about. It's about Lucy and Joshua and they're kind of rivals in the office. 2 merging companies come together and they both do the same role and they end up both fighting for a role which they're both kind of equally kind of qualified for. And it would be kind of a promotion for both of them. So they kind of battle it out to get that job. I've heard a few people, Becca in the books, who this is her host fave pick, one of her host fave picks. She recently read this and then watched the movie and said there was a few things in the book that kind of weren't touched on in the movie, which she feels like would have been quite important. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to read it, give it a go myself, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this. The next one I have actually technically started, but if you can call being 14 pages into a book, I'm not very far in. This is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is her latest release. I have read Beach Read by Emily Henry. Haven't read You and Me on Vacation, but I do have it on my Kindle. This I don't really know a lot about. Can you tell I go into books not knowing an awful lot about them, but having kind of a general idea? It's about Nora and Charlie, and I believe they kind of both have jobs in the book industry in some way. I don't know an awful lot about that bit yet, but I seem to think that there's going to be some kind of connection between them, and maybe a bit like Beach Read, where one reads they both write opposing stories that the other would normally be known to write. I think don't know if this might have something similar. I don't really know, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. This fulfills the prompt of poll pick. I did a poll on my Instagram stories and this came out top, so that fits that. And I recently hauled it. Or have I picked that for something else? I can't remember. Might be favourite genre or something like that, but it definitely fulfills a couple of prompts on the bingo board. And then I have a couple more to talk about. One of the prompts is last letter is the same as the first letter of the title. I literally wrote a list of my whole owned TBR and then scrolled through my whole Kindle TBR as well, which I don't, that's just a big black hole. And I literally found 5 books that have the same first letter of the title as the last letter of the title. There are lots of options for that, but one of them means starting another, 2 of them mean starting series, and 2 of them I just wasn't massively bothered by, which maybe means I should unhaul them. But the one that I'm kind of touching on and thinking that I'll probably end up reading is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I've been talking about wanting to kind of diversify my reading going forward because I've fallen down a massive contemporary romance rabbit hole and it seems to be all that I'm reading at the minute. But I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it. So who cares? But I thought this would be a good one to try. YA fantasy. As far as I'm concerned, it's not part of a series. I might have to do some research on that. But I remember this being so hyped. And I think I bought this when it was newly released. And it was like, oh my gosh, I've got a copy of Sorcery of Thorns. It was like a big thing. And I haven't read it. When was this released? Because this was like, I'm sure I bought this. 2019. I bought this when it was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. Yeah, it looks like it's 2019. And I just, again, don't know an awful lot about it, but think it would be nice. I hear a lot of positive things about Margaret Rogerson and about her books in general. And I just need to either get this read or to choose that it's not for me, DNF it, and then move on from it because it's been on my shelf for far too long. But yeah, this will literally just fulfill that prompt. I don't know if it could maybe fulfill colour on the cover because it is very green again on the cover. It's a gorgeous cover as well. I love this book. It's kind of a little bit in the sun, but I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to getting into it finally. And the final book, which I kind of feel a little bit hesitant for reading and allowing it to fulfill the prompt, is Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone by Diana Gabaldon. The copy that I'm actually currently reading, which is why I feel bad for including it, which I'll come back to in a minute. The copy I'm actually currently reading is downstairs, so I don't have it to show you how far through it I am. This fulfills prompts as well. This has a lot of blue on the cover. This continues a series, and this was a 2021 release, which is one of the prompts I haven't covered so far, knowingly covered so far. Pretty sure that nothing else is a 2021 release. We'll just have to double check that because I'm not sure when this was released, because this could maybe fulfill more prompts than I was expecting it to. No. It was copyrighted in 2016, first published in 2016. This edition was printed in 2021, but No. So this was a 2021 release. This continues the series and it's predominantly blue, if I haven't already covered the whole cover thing by the time I get to this one. I was kind of really hesitant to add this on to the readathon. However, this book is 888 pages long, and when I started it in June, I still had 250 to 300 pages left of it. So I kind of feel like that can count, because I still had like almost a whole book's worth of it to read, if you kind of look at it in page length terms. Also, these pages are massive, and the text and the chapter breaks as well. They don't break a page, like it just, you know, it's a massive book. The pages are really big, they're tall obviously because it's a hardback, and the text fills those pages. So I feel those 250 to 300 pages kind of like reading a whole book in itself. So I've kind of just decided that actually I feel like I can include this, even though the majority of the book wasn't read in June. A big chunk of it still was, and a big, like 300 pages of it still was. I don't think it was quite 300 pages. I did do the maths earlier, but I haven't got it to hand. And I still think it's a feat and an accomplishment to finish it. So I'm kind of going with it. I'm hoping with all of them, I've kind of covered most of the bingo board sections. I don't think I mentioned that. Did I mention what A Man Called Ove actually? Under 300 pages, and on a previous TBR. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. So I was just looking at my bingo board again. I don't know if I mentioned that. Probably did. So like I said, those are my kind of like my obligations initially, and then my kind of hopefuls for the readathon. But I'm absolutely buzzing, and I'm actually glad that I've got a real mix of genres in on my hopefuls list as well, because it kind of fills me with a little bit of kind of hope that I can maybe get back to reading a little bit more diversely across genres, because we have been very, very contemporary romance heavy over the last couple of months. Not that I mind, but I want to try and get through my TBR, and I'm kind of looking at my TBR going, there's not much contemporary romance on it, so then I'm not picking stuff up. But I've got a lot of fantasy and other genres, like historical stuff on there as well, which I need to get to. So it'll be good to get back in love with all those other genres. So what have you got on your June TBR? Have you got something that's top of your list that you want to be reading? If so, I'd love to hear about it down below in the comments. If you've got any of these books on your TBR, again, love to hear about it. If anyone fancies doing a buddy read of anything other than the books I've already started, because it might be late by the time this video goes up, please let me know. And if you're taking part in whatever-thon, what team are you part of? I'm part of the Shelf Slayers, as I said. Would also love to hear about kind of what your thoughts are and what you're planning on reading for all the various different prompts. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye, guys.